We had a case in my office in Solo where a taxpayer was having over 100 million turnover every year. But on his account, he was submitting 5 million, 6 million. He did it for about 4 years. The auditor and also the tax consultant was a very elderly and godly man. He told him that this thing you are doing is illegal. It will backfire. That at his age, he will never support him. Eventually, the man resigned. He didn't even pay his audit fee. He went away. We are just picking companies for routine audits. We picked his company. We used the bank. He listed only one bank in his account, where actually he had 5 bank accounts. But through our intelligence network, the banks and other sources were able to get the bank statements, dug out everything. And when we wrote letter for audit, he came up. Where is your auditor? He said he's not having any auditor. I will defend himself. When the chips were down, it was on a rainy day. The AC was on. The fan was on. The man was sweating like a pig. So eventually he went to the auditor. That, Biko, come and bail me out. The man said, Shebi, I told you that one day, monkey will go to market, he won't return. He paid through the nose.
The man was sweating like a pig.
Yes, sir.
More like sweating in snowy winter. That clip is our way of welcoming you to today's episode of Tax Matters. My name is Olumuyiwa Matuloko, and with me on today's episode is Christina Pius.
Hello, viewers.
That clip aptly sets the tone for today's episode of the program. We're going to be looking at the roles of the tax professionals in enthroning voluntary tax compliance, as well as the rights and duties, the obligations of the taxpayer. Now you have an insight into the psyche, into the mindset, the modus operandi of the modern day tax administrator. They are quick-witted, sharp, and very alert. We dare say that there is no hiding place anymore for the tax dodger. So, what are the roles of the tax professionals? What are the rights and obligations of the taxpayer? Answers will come to you shortly.
Now what do be this? Make it sound like where you. The thing where you said me too much, calculation is where OJ.
Madam, me correct now. Now the price be that.
You are playing with fire, so me I know say they never search fast for picking things. So you want to play me while you? You want to teach me a bit?
Madam, now everything with the advert on top. Now so with the seller.
Madam, you dey correct o.
Good day, madam. Any problem? Problem there.
The thing be say una not supposed to charge VAT for baby items and other things wey dey for VAT exemption list.
Yeah.
Chai! This one na wayo receipt o. Correct receipt suppose contain the things wey you buy and the VAT wey dey on top. Then other items wey not get VAT, you go put them separately.
Madam, I apologize, You go change that.
Change that. You say we don't know what the government.
To pay VAT dey compulsory. Now government they use to make our life jolly, to collect and pay sharply to government. Is they correct?
FIRS, it pays to pay your tax.
On Monday, 26th of May 2014, tax administrators, consultants, bankers, and other stakeholders gathered together in Ikeja, Lagos for a workshop on tax returns, stakeholders' collaboration for voluntary tax compliance, and taxpayers' rights and obligations. The workshop was organized by the FIRS Medium Tax Office, Lagos Mainland. 2 papers on the topics were presented.
Simply put, tax compliance is when a taxpayer has discharged all his obligations, all his tax obligations under the tax law. If you are asked to register, you register. If you are supposed to file returns, you file returns. If you are expected to pay tax, you pay tax. If you are invited for an interview, you come and attend. What you are simply doing is that you are complying with your tax obligations, and that is tax compliance. But when we come to voluntary tax compliance, for us to understand this very well, we may probably need to reflect on where we are coming from to begin to talk about voluntary tax compliance. I know there was a time in this country where what taxpayers, particularly corporate taxpayers, what they were doing then was for them to just file in their accounts. The inspector of taxes then will have to sit down, look at the numbers in the financial statement, and begin to think of what the taxpayer should pay. After arriving at those numbers, then he raises an assessment and then serve it on the taxpayer. The taxpayer might look at it and say, why should this guy assess me as much as this? So you had a lot of time wasted. But as the economy kept on getting more complex, the tax base getting wider, it was getting more and more difficult for the tax authority to adopt this method, because the resources to actually get the taxpayer to reach out to the taxpayers to get them to discharge their obligations were getting bigger and bigger and probably out of control of the tax authorities. Let us imagine a situation where the tax authority on a monthly basis will have to be going to the taxpayers' offices, say maybe on the 21st of every month. Please, can I have your check for your value-added tax? Can I have your check for withholding tax? Maybe by June 30 of every year, can I have your check for company income tax? So voluntary tax compliance was designed. In this case, the tax authority has very little interference, if at all any. All you do is just to give the taxpayer some kind of education on how to comply on his own. The taxpayer sits down, computes his tax, goes to the tax authority and says, this is how I paid. Today, that's how it is happening.
That, simply put, is self-assessment.
Now, tax compliance or voluntary tax compliance, whose responsibility is it? I've had experience where taxpayer will just walk into the office and will say, look, I'm not at fault. I've asked a bank to pay this money for me. I've given my returns to so and so to file. And you are telling me I've not filed returns. I've given it to him. Our response has always been, tax compliance is absolutely the responsibility of the taxpayer. No matter whom you have appointed to do it for you, whether a friend, whether a consultant, whether a bank, until it is discharged, you have not discharged your obligation. But though it is your responsibility to discharge, to be tax compliant, to discharge your obligations, but you also have a choice of not doing it personally. You can seek the help of specialists who understand, who have better understanding of the requirements of the law, of the tax law. There is nothing wrong in that.
So why do you need a tax professional?
Tax in itself is cost. And business people like to minimize their cost. So you want to minimize your tax cost, but somebody is asking you to also engage a professional to do that job for you. It's like asking you to take up additional costs. But why would you want to do that? The businesses are getting more and more complex. So also tax provisions, they are getting more and more complex. So you probably need people who have the expertise. So when you don't have that expertise to do it, you may not have a choice than to get a tax professional. So you are advised to get one. Somebody who is very knowledgeable in tax is not going to be cheap. If you want to employ that person to come and take a desk in your office, you have to compare what you will be paying than outsourcing that service. If you look at it and you find out that outsourcing it will be better as a taxpayer, you are advised to go and outsource and get a tax professional. I know there are some taxpayers, smart taxpayers, that have gotten professionals, even to do their VAT for them, to do the returns. They don't want a desk in their office to do that. And they are doing that very well for them. People also engage them to build capacity. Sometimes you have an in-house tax desk, but they have not gotten to that level where they can give you optimum service. You get a professional who works with them. Over time, the in-house expert that you are, in-house people you have, will also become experts. Now, how can the tax professional now add value to the taxpayers? Because that's the bottom line. You have responsibility to the taxpayer. So unless you add value to his job, to his business, of course, you are going to get sacked. A smart tax professional will ensure that his client files his returns timely. You keep on reminding them. It's not easy, because I know you could have some difficult taxpayers. But once we let them know the implication for non-compliance, I think we can actually get results. Timely payment of taxes. You need to let them know that it's even less costly to pay tax on time rather than to delay payment of tax. It is not good to encourage them to delay taxes, to say nothing will happen. Your tax professional can also advise you on the disclosures that you need to make. Necessary disclosures that you need to make in your returns. He can advise you, a good taxpayer, a good tax consultant will advise a taxpayer on the consequences of irregular disclosures. You might want to do that and you think you are being smart, but if you engage a tax professional who knows his job, he's going to tell you that, look, you need to be very careful what you are doing, about what you are doing. Timely response to tax queries. We know nowadays when you write taxpayers, it's the tax consultants that will respond, because they are better placed to do that. Provide representations at tax interviews once you are. But I must say that for a tax professional to be able to do this, the taxpayer must have written letter of introduction to the tax authority to say that, look, this guy has my mandate to speak for me in your office. That's when the tax professional can do all of this on your behalf. It can help you to prosecute your tax appeal cases, can help you to defend your rights. They also seek to review of unfavorable or ambiguous tax laws.
Now we know the roles of the tax professionals. Yeah. So what are the rights and obligations of the taxpayer? But before then, this clip on the relationship between the tax professional and his clients.
The other aspect is where taxpayer will hire and fire auditors like they are hiring a downfall driver. I think this one is common with the new generation tax consultants, the so-called pa. We had a case also last year where an auditor was fired for not doing anything wrong, and they hired a new one. And my question with the new auditor is that, have you consulted the former auditor? You are a member of a professional body, to find out if there is any reason why you should not accept this fee. He said, what are you talking, man? This is a cool job, and you want me not to accept it. I'll go ahead and accept it. Actually, he accepted it. And when I saw him about 2 months ago, I asked him, how are you faring with your client? He said, don't ask. The man is a stupid man. Now, even up till now, he has not paid my this thing. I have abandoned him. I said, but I warned you last year.
Now, what are the rights and obligations of the taxpayers?
My job is just simple. It's just to highlight some of your rights and obligations. The taxpayers have the right to tax information, to be informed, assisted, educated, and heard on issues of tax law. Then there's another right, which is very fundamental, right of confidentiality, secrecy, and privacy. This is a key right for the taxpayers. And that is why that any information that is supplied by the taxpayers through the tax consultant is jealously being guided. It is your right for us not to disclose any information that we get from you in the course of trying to resolve tax matters. And the tax law imposes heavy penalty on tax officials who misuse confidential information of taxpayers. Taxpayers also has the right to be treated with respect and dignity. Taxpayers have the right to assess themselves with the right tax and pay, or not before the due date. Right to choose and appoint tax representative. This is at the discretion of the taxpayers. Tax will be granted refund for excess payment of tax made by taxpayers. This is another right. In fact, it's even embedded in our FRS Establishment Act. And I will refer you to section 23. But before this one is given, it has to be audited. Your money is there, honestly. But make sure that if you are confident, you know that it's true, feel free to go to FRS. That is the right of the taxpayer, and you'll be given. Right to objection and appeal to tax assessment. When assessment is given to a taxpayer, it is not absolute. You have about 30 days to object. But when you are objecting, please, the law requires you to state the ground of objection. Another right is right to be issued tax clearance. This one is your right. And we must understand this right very, very well. That right is not absolute. But you've been having a misgiving about it. That is absolute. I must get my tax clearance within 15 days. Yeah? For the purpose of clarity. Let me read that section for you. Section 10 of CETA states, whenever the board is of opinion, and I'm emphasizing board is of opinion, that tax assessed on profit or income of a person has been fully paid, or that no tax is due, is of the opinion that no tax is still due, is of the opinion that tax has been fully paid on such profit or income, it shall issue a tax clearance certificate to the person within 2 weeks of the demand. I emphasize within 2 weeks of demand for such certificate by that person. Or if not, give reason for denial. Then section 10C of it states further, when a person who has deducted any tax under any provision of the Act fail to pay the tax so deducted to the appropriate tax authority, no tax clearance, I emphasize no tax clearance, may be issued to the person, even if he has fully discharged his own tax liability. That is the provision of the law regarding tax clearance. In fact, some taxpayers believe that the only thing, the engagement you have with revenue authority is just only for tax clearance. Whereas it's not. The common statement I used to hear, I'm having bidding tomorrow and tax clearance is urgently needed. That is the common message you always give us. Oh, my bidding is tomorrow. And his bidding is tomorrow. He's giving you the 3 years account on which you are going to put the tax clearance today. Which bidding? You see, at times I look at issues closely myself. You that you are filing NINI, you ask me to sign NINI for 3 years. You see, I'm always trying to even look at it objectively for you. Because if I'm sitting down for that bidding, I see somebody, we are considering three people. Somebody that is having his tax paid and is there, and you as your own NINI. And you think, as part of the bidding committee, I will recommend you. In fact, I said, this one is not responsible. The way we put it is that way. Oh, for filing NINI is not responsible. That is it. Now, having said that, if you give somebody rights, they have the right, then there must be certain obligations you must also do. Those that you don't go with the right alone. One of them is honesty. That is, whenever you are filling your tax form or any dealings that we are having with the tax authority, I won't limit it to Federal Land Revenue alone, the tax authority in general, you must be honest. The taxpayer should be seen to be honest with whatever they are doing. And taxpayers, majority of them don't know what they are doing. It is you, the tax consultant. You must, that is your role. You must educate them very well. You must assist them. So, cooperation with the tax audit and tax investigation team. Yes, I have to say this one briefly because we've been having challenges on this one. At times, we at FRS, we sit down, strategize. What is delaying this thing? Why are we having problem? Why should our audit be taking 2 years? Why should it be 1 year? You know that jurisdiction is just about maybe a month. Even some, maybe within 15 days. Why our own is so special? But we've come to a conclusion that it is the joint effort of both the taxpayers and the tax representative that is making this to be delayed. Instances are that when you go for audit, they say it's okay before we attend to you. The documents they are going to use is in the cupboard of the MD. They say it's okay, auditors is the one. Without auditors, that's what the taxpayer is saying. There's nothing you could do. But we've given you a letter earlier. Why are you delaying it? Even when we send letter for you, after sending this in, some will take even nothing less than 6 months to respond. Even when they respond, no documents to back it. It's only grammar.
Earlier in his welcome address, Mr. Aino, who stood in for the coordinating director, Field Operations Group, spoke about the so-called drone rush when most taxpayers file their annual company's income tax returns.
This gathering would have come at a better time than now, when majority of our non-oil taxpayers with their accounting year ended 31st December 2013 have up to 30th of June this year to file their income tax returns. Accordingly, I want to seize this opportunity to implore you all to appeal to your clients to discharge this obligation as and when due.
And in the keynote address delivered by Mr. Peter Olayemi, on behalf of the acting executive chairman of the FRS, Alhaji Kabiru Mashi, the roles of the tax professionals were emphasized.
You are between the service, that is FRS, and the taxpayers. Your timely advice in reminding your clients of their tax obligations and letting them know the implications of non-compliance is key to the development of our tax system.
Every day, my people they for work. Some they do office work. Some get it them own business. So all of them want good road, constant power for better life. Whether now office work, oh yeah, pay your tax. Whether now your own business, oh pay your tax. If you want a better life, oh pay your tax. Now your civic responsibility, pay your tax. Better soup, now money cook more. Oh yes. Nothing goes for nothing, my brother. If you want potable water, security and hospital for make life jolly.
That's right. Good roads, good hospitals, portable water, adequate security all come from taxpayers' money. Play your part in making Nigeria great. Everybody, small scale, big companies, entrepreneurs, do the right thing. Pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS.
As will be expected, the presentation of those two papers was followed by a robust interactive session with the audience. But because of time constraints, that will come to you in the episode following this one, the follow-up episode. Still talking about the tax professional, you know that the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria is the body statutorily charged with the regulation of taxation in Nigeria. It is the umbrella body for all tax professionals and administrators in Nigeria. On Wednesday, the 4th of June 2014, the CITN held its 22nd annual general meeting in Ikeja, Lagos. Highlights of the AGM were the adoption of the financial statement for the year ended 31st December 2013 as well as the reports of the auditors and the election of members of council. 4 old members were returned, and Honorable Joshua Asuko from Akwa Ibom State was elected as a brand new member of council. Tax Matters wishes the members of council of the CITN, led by the president, Mr. MACDK, the best of luck. From Christina,
thank you for watching.
Have a good week ahead.